Hello, welcome to Cheapskate Tuesday, kind of random Tuesdays where I release a video looking at a plugin that I've bought for as cheap as chips to see if it's any good. Cheapskate Tuesday is not about trying to find a plugin that sounds like the latest 1176 or the hardware 1176 or anything like that. It's about finding plugins and instruments that sound great for creative purposes. And in this video, I look at a plugin by Minimal Audio called Rift Feedback Lite, which is part of a bigger paid plugin that they offer. And what they've done is they've taken the delay section out of that and done it as a free plugin. Now, I paid £5 for this, and the irony of Cheapskate Tuesday is that you, if you wanted to, currently can get it for free. We're going to look at 3 different ways of using the plugin. The first one is for sound design in trailer music. The second one is for creating ambient sounds. Third one is assigning it to a MIDI controller and just creating unbelievable amounts of noise. If you like this video and you want to get more Cheapskate Tuesdays in the future, then hit that like and subscribe button. I really appreciate your supporting the channel. Thanks very much. Enjoy the video. Right, now we're in Logic. Let's take a look at the plugin and what this thing can do. You've got the feedback dial, which is how many repeats or how long the comb filtering will last for. Frequency dial, which is set on 2 levels. One is the actual repeat itself and the division that you want to use depending on which mode you're in. If you're in tune mode, it switches to a note, so you can actually tune the repeats to the notes. You have the spread dial, which is basically spreading across the stereo field. You also have a high and low pass filter. And then on top of that, you also have a mode to select between stereo and ping pong. Down at the bottom, you have the mix slider. Now, when you're in tune mode, whether you select MIDI or tune, MIDI mode allows you to connect to your MIDI keyboard or the instrument that you're using, so it tracks every note that you're playing, which is really, really useful. I'm not going to be demonstrating that here, but it is something that you can use. Tune mode allows you to select a particular note or even a scale, which is really useful. So let's say, for example, if I wanted to do something in the scale of C, I can go down to this icon at the bottom and I could select all the notes that I wanted to use in the scale of C major. But there's also this tiny little button here which allows you to then select whether you want to use the major or minor scale or various different modes, and that runs across the various keys. Now, the other thing that I notice is what creates a really big impact when you're using the tune mode is the octave that you set. Okay, so let's now start to take a look at the various different ways that you could use Rift Feedback Lite to inject some interest into your music. 3 different examples of ways that you could actually use Rift Feedback Lite. One is kind of maybe trailer music. The second one is kind of more of an ambient feel. And then the last one is, I've called it creative noodling with Rift. So this one is actually using it with assigning the dials to your MIDI controllers or just using automation, maybe in latch mode, and then resampling through a bus onto an audio track. So I want to show you what I did here with this. The first thing was to take the plugin to its absolute extreme. So I've got a horn stab, which is just doing this. And then I set the feedback to about 81%. I dialed in the frequency to the note C. So what it will give me is just a long sustaining note. 3 different versions. So I did one an octave down, then an octave up, and then a short burst. Sounds horrible. Again, sounds horrible. You can see there it's got more of a comb filtering effect. Now the next one is I took just a simple string stab and again took riff feedback to the extreme. Let's see what I did with it. So here I had the feedback at 68%, frequency set to C0, and then left everything else as is. Here's the effect. So you get this nice, really rich, distorted sound. If you don't bypass the plugin, you end up with just an infinitely long noise. So I actually used the bypass, switched the bypass in, and then just decided how long did I want the note to last for. And you can see here that I just kept the note going for 3 bars. So once I've had my audio, what I did next was this. This is where we can start to get really creative and come up with some interesting ideas. I then just drag these onto the quick sampler. That I can play it like a keyboard. And I just used the pitch envelope, a little bit of filtering, and set the amp envelope. Just played with it to get an interesting sound. The last thing I did was combined all of them into a track stack. And then from there, I went one step further and I copied the quick sampler with the short horn stab and reversed it. So you can see this is now going in reverse, bounced in place. So I've got my riser, my Brahms sounds, and then I'm going to combine that with just a simple, straightforward horn and string pattern. There you go. So let's hear that with everything together. All coming off of Rift. All right, so let's now go on to the second one. First of all, how is Rift affecting the drums? Free mode, and I've got the feedback set quite high. Put the mix in very, very low. Spread is as wide as I can get it, and then I've really filtered out the low end. Without. And then with. So it really creates a nice comb filtering effect that can be quite subtle, but just make the part sound a little bit more interesting. Now, what I found with the bass, which is just simply Rickenbacker bass setting, is that you can add a bit of distortion with this. So if you, again, notice I've got 24% on the mix. I've got it to tune in my key, which is C minor. I've got the frequency set to C7, so it's very high. The spread is only at 7%. Now the feedback is a lot. What that does is it creates some distortion. I've also taken out all of the top end as well, so you're only hearing the grittiness of the low end. So here it is without. And here it is with. So it creates almost like a phasing effect, but also at the same time adds a bit more distortion. And I think also increases the low end as well, but makes it a bit grittier. It makes the part come forward in the mix a bit more without it becoming over the top. So you could actually use this free feedback plugin for distortion effects on low end. What I wanted to do is really create some kind of atmospheric ambient sound in the background. What I went for was a kind of guitar style feedback. So the first thing was I set this into latch mode and, just rode the volume up and down. I've added quite a lot of reverb, 13 seconds, which is why I'm riding the volume up and down. I've also added the free plugin Halcyon, which is in my previous video, just to add a bit more distortion to the sort of low and upper mids. To really bring out the distortion or really bring out the feedback element, what I wanted to do was add some distortion at the front of the chain, and that will agitate the various frequencies. So here, what I'm doing is I've got the feedback set quite extreme, 95%. I'm almost all the way at 100% on the mix. And then I've tuned the comb filter to 553 hertz. Now, the reason why I've done that is because that's roughly around a G note. And that's the feedback note harmonic that I wanted to bring out. Now what I'm going to do is show you how you can use Rift Feedback Lite to create some incredible sculpting and sound design effects. Don't judge me, this just sounds awful. Right, so let's now go to Rift Feedback Lite, and what I've done is I've set this up on my controller, so I've now got access to all of the dials, including the feedback mix. So let's have a listen to how you could actually use this. First thing I'm going to do is put this in tune mode. So you see there, I can come up with a whole host of different sounds. If I put it into, let's do it in free mode. you can create some amazing stuff with this. If I also set it to sync mode, you can again create some interesting effects. So there you go. That's a really great way of actually using this to kind of almost create analog style kind of noodlings. You could automate this, record the automation, but I've set up an audio track. So I like to resample my effects because what I could do is put them into audio and then in the future create something new from it. So let's say I do this. I'm going to put it back onto the tuned effect and let's set the feedback low. I like the phasing effect that you can create from this. So let's just go extreme and phasing. And what I'm going to do is hit record. And because I've set this up to go into a bus and the bus is then coming in to the input of the audio channel, I can actually just record this straight in. And now look, what I've got is an audio track of what I just recorded. So I could maybe cut this, put this here, and then I've now got a kind of riser type effect. And then, of course, you could do all sorts of things. You could maybe add the riff feedback again, or you could add a delay plugin to it and do whatever you want with it. So that's it. Cheapskate Tuesday is done and dusted. When the next one will be, I don't know, because I'm useless at posting on a regular basis. But if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the near future. Thanks for watching.